Welcome to Alternative Investments Chat,
where we demystify the world of alternative investments and financing for entrepreneurs and investors alike.
With these discussions, we hope you're more empowered to unlock opportunities in your business or portfolio. I'm Erin.
And I'm Erica. Let's get started.
Welcome back. Today we're talking about another fun topic.
Yes.
All things equestrian when it comes to investment ventures. Erica, would you say that you were a horse girl growing up?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Obviously, what little girl didn't want a pony?
Right.
And I was a big fan. This will show my age a little bit, but I did have lots of My Little Ponies.
Uh-huh.
And then as I got older, living in New Mexico, we did horseback ride often.
Yep.
And then I actually dated a young man who his family owned horses and his mom showed them. And so they had several on their property. I didn't like the chickens that she also had as pets. I would feed the chickens and the horses, and then we would go ride horses out in the pecan trees.
Fun.
And it was so fun. I do nothing though. Just everyone needs to understand.
Sure. Just get on the horse and do a little ride, get off.
Yeah. His mom took care of everything for me. So they would load them up into the back of the trailer. I would sit in the car where it's air conditioned. They would come out, they would clean the shoes, put all the things on. And then once it was ready, then I would get on. And then once I was done riding, I would just get off and get back in the car.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean,
I like that. I like that version of it.
Yeah. I'm like,
it's a lot
I'm
less
not
messy.
I didn't. I was like, I will go, but I'm not doing this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
Well, what about you?
I had a best friend that rode horses. And this is like a story for another time, but I did lie and tell her that I rode horses for like a long time. And we actually went to horse camp, and I somehow lied my way into the advanced horse riding.
Good for you.
Yeah, it was a whole
thing.
thing.
Make it till you make it.
I got in big trouble. You would think that they would make sure that you have your credentials or something.
It's like a test.
They just believed me. I was like 10 and I was like, yeah, I ride horses competitively. No, I don't. Never had. Anyways, we went on this really difficult trail. First of all, we had to saddle up like
your own horses.
Our own horses.
So you didn't sit in a car like
in
the air conditioner like I did.
No, we did the whole thing. And this guy came over, and he should have known then. I don't know how he didn't know, but he was like, what's going on over here? Because clearly I didn't know what the heck I was doing. And I said, this equipment's a little bit different than what I'm used to at my stable. So, I'm just getting used to it. I don't know. I was 10. So I just wanted to be cool.
The worst part is I can picture you doing this.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Precocious.
Yes.
This one was.
I love it.
Yeah. So I wanted to be. Didn't really work out for me. But I am excited to talk about this investment type because it blends a lot of things that we've talked about before: real estate, sports, and passion-backed assets. Mm-hmm. And it's a great opportunity to blend hobbies with finances, which can make your portfolio more fun.
That is very, very true here. So today, equestrian real estate, breeding, and horse racing are all attracting high net worth investors. Mm-hmm. So according to Globe Newswire, global equestrian markets are projected to reach $445 billion by 2027.
Billion with a B.
Billion with a B.
Yeah, that's a big market.
Yeah.
So there's many different ways to get involved in equestrian investments. We can kick off this conversation talking about racehorses.
Okay.
Investing in racehorses typically involves buying racehorses with the hope that they will succeed in races and bring in prize money, as well as the possibility of future earnings through breeding if they become successful or well-known. I think most of us are familiar with Seabiscuit, lots of movies and media that have been created after this famous racehorse. He's a great example of a valuable racehorse, and after he retired, he became a stud and sired 108 foals, which is crazy.
That's a lot of little babies.
It's a lot of little babies. So not only was he lucrative during his racing years, but also through retirement due to his astounding success as a racehorse. Another great example, Triple Crown winner Justify is now worth $75 million after generating $15 million in race earnings.
Nice.
And his stud fees are $250,000 per mating.
That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
I wonder how much I could have made at the track.
So, how does one even go about owning a racehorse, right? It's not easy and it's not expensive.
No, it is
However-
expensive.
Oh, yeah. Did I say it's not expensive?
You said not expensive. I'm like, wait a second, girl.
So
no,
sorry.
shit's
Not easy, very expensive.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you for catching me on that.
Yep.
We know that. It costs a lot of money. If it didn't, probably a lot more people would have racehorses.
Yeah.
However, for some people, it can make a great investment, especially for those who are passionate about horses.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that we all know you can own a racehorse privately. There are some pros to this approach. You have complete control over the horse's training, obviously, their management and their racing schedule. You can select their trainer, their jockey, and decide how the horse is managed based on your personal preferences. And any prize money that the horse wins, you get to keep.
That's nice.
And if the horse performs well and is sold for breeding, you get to keep those sale proceeds, which can sometimes be substantial.
Yeah.
And you get to choose when to sell or retire the horse. So all of the decisions are up to you. There's also some cons with this approach, as you can imagine. Cost of purchasing a racehorse privately is very high, as we've established, especially for horses with promising pedigrees or proven performance. If they were like the foal of Seabiscuit or Justify, that's an expensive horse, right? If the horse doesn't perform well or gets injured, you bear the full financial risk. And if a horse doesn't succeed, that may not generate enough income to cover the actual cost of having the horse.
Yeah.
Owning a racehorse privately can be time consuming. Even if you hire a team to manage, like take care of that horse, you're in charge of all the decisions, which could be very costly on your time. And you also bear the full financial burden, right? So all that money is coming out of your pocket to care for the horse.
It's all on you.
Yeah.
It's all on you. It's a very risky business. Funny story. My grandmother owned a racehorse.
Oh.
No, don't say worst investment of her life.
Oh.
She did not get a pedigreed racehorse. In fact, this racehorse decided to run backwards on the track, which is a big no-no in the race community, and it was kicked out of the races. So she quickly sold that.
Whoopsies.
That guy. She didn't own him for very long, and she didn't do her research. It was, trust me, when I came home and my mom told me your grandmother bought a racehorse, I was excited.
Of course.
I
would be.
Not like I said, very risky business.
Yeah.
So, well, there is another option that you can actually own a racehorse through a syndicate. I wish my grandmother would have done that. So let's talk about the pros of this approach. So syndicates allow you to pool and your resources with other investors, reducing the upfront cost of purchasing the racehorse. So this makes ownership accessible to a broader range of people. Obviously, if you're splitting something, everyone's down to split something most of the time. Split an appetizer?
Yeah.
Not an entree. Stay away from my french fries.
Yeah, I want
Syndicates can shares can start at much lower prices compared to buying a horse privately, making it more affordable option.
Right.
The financial risks then are spread amongst the members of the syndicate, which is also nice. So if the horse doesn't perform well or suffers an injury, your financial exposure is reduced, making it less risky than owning a horse outright.
Yep.
Syndicates often hire experienced professionals to manage the horse, including trainers, managers, and agents, ensuring that the horse is given the best care and attention.
Right.
This is especially beneficial if you're not familiar with the intricacies of a racehorse.
Right.
Like me.
Maybe your grandmother.
My poor grandmother. And myself. Like, I don't know how to clean the shoes and put
do all the things.
all the stuff on. I'm like, no, just tell me when it's ready and I'm ready to go. But as a syndicate member, your involvement is usually limited to decision-making meetings and occasional race days. So you can kind of say, hey, like you can enjoy the perks of ownership without being fully immersed. In the day-to-day management of the horse, you can say like, hey, I'm not really wild about that race or whatever. Sure. Now, what about the cons? As a member of a syndicate, you have limited control.
Yep.
Major decisions are made by the syndicate's management team. And individual owners typically don't have a say in how the horse is trained or raced. Right. So you might say, hey, I don't really like that, but they're going to say,
too bad.
Yeah, girl, you don't know nothing. Sit down. So that's unfortunate. But any prize money also, earnings or proceeds from the sale of the horse are split amongst all the members as well. While your share will be proportional to your investment. So if you have, you own 3 legs instead of only 2 legs of the horse. I'm assuming that's how you do it. I want the front 2 and the mane.
Sure.
That's my portion
how
of
they
the
do it.
horse. But anyway, if you any money gets split. So you might get a smaller cut if you only own 1 leg.
Exactly.
Syndicates involve multiple investors, so which means there can be disagreements, like I said, over decisions or directions of where you want to take the horse. So not all owners may agree on which races to enter the horse's or the horse's future, which can create tension.
Right.
So one online platform that does allow for this fractional ownership is My Racehorse.
My Racehorse.
My Little Pony, My Racehorse. And I love how right on the homepage it says, for centuries, racehorse ownership has been reserved for the ultra wealthy. But what about the other 99%?
Yeah.
I love that we're seeing all kinds of inclusive language that is propelling the democratization of alternative investments, especially when it comes to horsies.
Yeah, horsies. Yeah, so now let's jump into the real estate side of things. Equestrian estates are properties that are specifically designed for equestrian activities, such as horse breeding, training, boarding, or simply just for recreational riding. They typically include extensive land, stables, arenas, or other amenities that are suited for horses and their care. Equestrian estates can range from small private properties for personal use to large commercial operations where the horses are bred or trained or boarded for their clients. If you've ever actually known anyone who owns a horse, they usually keep their horse in one of these facilities. It's rare that people keep their horse like at their house. Most people don't have like
I don't think my apartment complex would let me keep a horse.
Yeah, I don't think so.
On my balcony.
Yeah. We had a neighbor who owned a horse, and like we don't live on horse properties because obviously there's private horse properties or communities that are specifically designed for having horses. I don't live in one of those. So our neighbor's horse was kept at a stable where it was cared for, and
which makes sense.
Could go visit, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So why might somebody want to invest in this kind of real estate? If you can actually believe it, the horse racing market is on the rise. It is said to grow from $387.9 billion in 2024 to $423.94 billion in 2025 at a compound annual growth rate of 9.3%.
Interesting.
I usually think of horse racing as something of the past, right? But people are still really into it, which is cool.
Yeah.
We can thank the popularity of online betting, an increase in sponsorship and investment, an increase in high-profile events, and an increase in a number of international events, overall increasing the demand or popularity of these events. As we know, these facilities aren't just for racehorses. People who own horses recreationally need a place to keep their horse as well. And there's a way for you to bring in multiple revenue streams. We've mentioned the boarding and the training, but what about events? If you own a property like this, you might not just keep it for horse-related events. You might host other events like weddings. There are people that have wedding venues on like farms or at stables. So that is sometimes an option. Also, sometimes we'll host retreats. The horses can be seen as like a form of therapy, right? Equine therapy. So sometimes people will host retreats for people to relax and connect with animals and nature.
It reminds me of like camps for children too, or for adults,
or like the one I went to.
Yeah,
right?
There you go.
It's that's literally.
You lied your way through the weekend.
I did, but that was a stream of revenue for that property, certainly.
Yeah. So I think that's awesome because, like I said, you don't. It doesn't have to be one size fits all. Like you can use it for multiple things. So equestrian estates can also benefit from land appreciation, just like other real estate, if you can believe it, because that's exactly what it is. It's just other real estate. Equestrian estates are often located in scenic, rural. Why is that a word hard?
It's a hard word.
Rural or semi-rural areas. So the value of such land typically appreciates over time. Particularly if the property is near growing urban centers, recreational areas, or high-demand equestrian regions.
Right.
I know that right off the 5 and Via de Valle, if you're driving up from San Diego to Rancho Santa Fe, there is a huge, huge plot of land that is all for horse stables.
Oh, cool.
And you can tell when everyone's in town because for that event, because it's full. Otherwise, when we would drive by, it was empty. But they're definitely making some money off that land. And it's really beautiful. Beautiful grass, but stables are gorgeous. I'm like, hey, I'm going to go hang out there. I don't have a horse, but whatever. We also know that equestrian estates are often expansive.
Right.
And land is becoming more scarce, which means that the demand may drive up the price, aka put your money in your pocket at all times for a sale. Okay?
Right.
You might drive by
stack up your dollars.
Yep, exactly. So an example of this actually is the Hitchcock Stables. It's an 8.67 acre equestrian facility in Aiken County, South Carolina.
Okay.
And it was listed for sale for $2.3 million.
Wow.
That's not, 2.3 for just land is
It's pretty cool.
not cheap.
Not cheap.
Now we're going to now we're going to get more into the horse events in a second, but I wanted to mention owning a horse property near horse shows, like horse circuits, can be a great way to draw revenue as well.
Right.
So people travel from all over to participate in equestrian events such as show jumping, dressage, which is fancy horse dancing is what I like to call it, or horse racing, all kinds of different stuff. So if you own one of these properties that's near a major event, that could bring in big bucks for you.
Right.
Again, people can keep their horses in your facility to reduce the travel stress on the animal, which I don't think a lot of people think about. But, if you ever been driving on a highway and you see a long trailer and there's
and
three
there's
horses, four horses in it, and they're just chilling, standing there. That's very stressful for the animals and they might not perform correctly.
Right.
So if you can get them somewhere and keep them kind of at one spot where they can chillax
Get them
and get ready, then, it can be beneficial for whatever you're doing.
Absolutely.
Not to mention the time that you can save from not having to travel back and forth. So it's also a great opportunity to network with equestrian professionals, gain their trust, and develop lasting relationships that can help sustain like small businesses.
Right.
So I always find that very interesting.
Yeah, totally. So you teased equestrian events. Did you know that you can actually invest in these events?
No.
Right. That's what I said. You can. In fact, almost all equestrian events are made possible by investors who help pay for the event infrastructure as well as the prize money. Prize money has to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
As you can imagine, there are many different ways to invest in equestrian events. Here is another way that equestrian real estate and equestrian events collide. Okay. Obviously, there needs to be a place where these events are held. And most of the time, they're held the same place year after year. If we think about like the most famous example of a horse event, which is the Kentucky Derby.
Dang it. I was going to bring us big floppy hats for this segment.
Yeah, we could have done that and drank a mint julep.
I know. I would say, well, I would probably just drink the mint julep. I'd forget the floppy hat.
Forget the hat. But it's held annually at Churchill Downs and has been since 1875. Yep. So it's not just the most iconic venues that can be lucrative. For example, there's Desert International Horse Park in Thermal, California. It has been selected to host to be the host venue for the upcoming Longines FEI Jumping World Cup. Horse people, don't come for me about pronunciation about this stuff. Do not come for me, okay? I already told you I tried to fake being a horse girl. I'm not a real one. Anyways, they are hosting from the 2024-2025 season through the 2027-2028 season. Awesome. This facility has been continuously revamping their property since 2019 in order to keep up with events of this caliber and continue to host them, which is a huge revenue opportunity.
That's awesome. So another opportunity is to invest in equestrian or ride-focused events. So there's opportunities to partner with riders and trainers to create events and clinics where the investor can contribute funding and receive a portion of that event's profits.
Yep. Cool.
Funnily enough, my life is wild, and the things that I've had to experience. When I lived in Montecito, I lived in a guest house. And the owners of the main house, he was a retired racehorse jockey.
Oh, cool.
And then he built...
Was he really, really short?
He was very short.
Yeah, there we go.
That's why I believed him. If he was a tall man, I've been like, sir, you're lying. But no, then as a side business, he built, or I guess built is not the right word. He crafted the most beautiful saddles
Wow.
for horses.
That's cool.
I used to love to go up there, and it smells so great with all the
Yeah,
leather.
the leather.
But that's what that kind of reminds me of. Like, I'm like, what do the jockeys do after they're done?
Yeah.
They
Something
make
else.
saddles.
Yeah, make saddles.
So, well, let's, speaking of profits, let's talk money, honey.
Yeah.
Good stuff. How do you generate income with equestrian events anyway?
Yeah.
I'm curious.
Great question.
So you've got ticket sales and attendance. Popular events, particularly international ones, they can draw thousands of spectators. So ticketing both in person and online provides a direct source of income for those investors, because every single time everybody buys a ticket, that's a little money in your pocket.
Yep.
Money in your pocket. Sponsorships and advertising. I didn't really think about this, but when I was reading through our research, I was like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. So as mentioned, sponsorship deals from a large part of event financing.
Yep.
Companies often pay a premium to have their names associated with prestigious equestrian competitions. Additionally, even event organizers, they can sell advertising space on event materials, on their websites, and broadcasts.
Yep.
Think about it. Every single sport does this.
Yep, they do.
And so why not horsies?
Right.
You know,
No horses.
and then you've got the broadcasting rights. So major equestrian events like the Derby,
Yep.
Kentucky Derby, particularly those with global reach, can command significant amounts of broadcasting rights.
Yep.
So networks or streaming platforms are willing to actually pay for the right to air that event to attract viewers and advertisers.
Exactly.
It's kind of like when, Super Bowl does the same thing. Why not these racing events?
Yep.
And we know, of course, as investors, the more money an investment draws, the higher the profits. We like that. Now, I know there's got to be some risks involved in equestrian investments. So let's break some of those down.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, every single type of equestrian investment comes with its own unique risks. So we can go over a few here. When it comes to investing in racehorses, there is injuries and health problems that we should consider.
Yeah.
Just like any athlete, racehorses may become injured from performing their sport. Some injuries may just require bed rest and they'll be fine. Others could be career ending. This is a terribly sad story, but I think it's worth sharing to illustrate some of the risks that can come with this kind of investment. Barbaro, this is a racehorse that was born in 2003 and actually passed in 2007, had a short life. Was the champion American thoroughbred racehorse who won the 2006 Kentucky Derby.
Oh, wow.
But shattered his leg 2 weeks later in the Preakness Stakes, which ended his racing career. And there were some complications that occurred due to this injury, which eventually led to the decision to euthanize him, which is so heartbreaking and sad. And it's sad for a lot of reasons, but a horse is not just an investment, but it's also a living animal that is loved and is cared for by people.
Yeah.
And to lose an animal is always hard.
And horses are actually very, very smart.
They are very
We all
smart.
as we know. But not only are they really smart, they're very loving towards their owners. I don't know why my Instagram feed is the reels are been like
Feeding you horse stuff.
feeding me horses, and like how they can sense like pregnancy,
Yep.
how they love little kids.
Yeah.
Not all horses, but like, and just how they like to cuddle, and they,
Right.
it's wild, but you wouldn't think this huge, large beast,
Mm-hmm.
personally, opinion, of course, like would be so loving and so gentle and so
It's a
kind.
big animal.
It is, but they are, at the end of the day, they're an animal that somebody genuinely loves and cares
Yeah.
about. And that's very sad. I hate to hear when they have to euthanize an animal.
Yeah. And they're also domesticated. They were domesticated by humans. So domesticated horses, have a strong bond with humans. If we think about any animal that's been domesticated, they were bred to live alongside humans and oftentimes perform a task or a job for us in exchange for us caring for them. So, it's something that is really sad whenever that happens. Another thing to consider is performance and uncertainty. Even if a horse is well bred and well trained, there's still no guarantee that it'll perform well in races. Performance uncertainty is one of the most significant risks when it comes to horse race investments.
Yeah, because you might have trained it very well, but if something is different, did you ever see the movie wild horses. It was like where wild horse grows or something. I can't remember.
I don't think so.
Anyway, it was about this girl who way back in the day, she would ride a horse off a ramp and into a diving pool. It was wild. And she'd practice it. The horse would practice this event so many times. But the day that it was like a circus trick essentially.
Sure.
And the day they went to perform it in front of a huge, huge crowd, a band with two cymbals hit the cymbals hard and it spooked the horse.
Yeah.
And it jumped. It almost hurt the rider and really hurt the horse. But it had done it trained to do this specific thing over and over and over again. But somebody else decided to put a loud noise in and it spooked the horse. So you never know.
Yeah, you do never know. It's something to keep in mind for sure. Yeah. Also, the cost of ownership. We've talked about how expensive it is. These expenses quickly add up, even without the horse ever winning a race. Yeah. You have travel fees, training fees, vet and medical costs, insurance. So just to name a few, right? What are the risks that are associated with equestrian real estate?
So, with all real estate. So there is market fluctuations.
Right.
Equestrian properties are specialized market, and their value is closely tied to the demand for people involved in equestrian activities. In regions where equestrian sports and lifestyles are popular, demand for equestrian properties can be really high. But it may not be as strong in the areas where those activities are less common.
Right.
If the demand drops due to economic shifts or changing trends, it could impact the resale value. Again, if you have a beautiful property, all of a sudden they start building stuff around you, it might not be a good property anymore.
Right.
So next thing you know, you just got empty land for no reason. Then also there's maintenance and upkeep costs. Again, in addition to standard real estate upkeep, equestrian properties that require specialized care, such as maintaining pastures, fences, barns, and riding arenas, which you wouldn't really normally think about. And equestrian properties, they often have more complex infrastructures than residential homes, which is more costly. Managing horse-friendly land, including pasture management, irrigation systems, can be time-consuming and costly. Yeah, especially if you're maintaining a large acreage.
Right, totally.
We also have those zoning and regulation risks. Zoning laws may restrict how an equestrian property can be used. So particularly if you plan to expand or develop the property further, example, turning it into a commercial boarding facility or even an event center. There may be restrictions on the number of horses you can keep, the type of events you can host, or the construction of new buildings in general. So obviously these aren't all the risks. There's tons more, but we, as always, if you're interested in this kind of investment, talk to your wealth advisor, examine the risk thoroughly before making an investment, talk to experts. There's tons out there. So
use your resources for sure.
Absolutely.
So what did we learn today?
That we don't know how to ride horses.
Well, that we probably shouldn't invest in this space. Cool to learn about, but it's probably not the one for you and I. Especially with your bad horse race investment in your genes. Maybe we need to stay away from that. But we did learn that equestrian space, and particularly investing in this space, blends real estate, sport, and legacy, which can make it a rich in alternative value. There's lots to explore there. And especially like the legacy part, you think about people who have been horse breeders for many years, or something their family does, right? Like people are really passionate about this. So it's a cool opportunity. But with that, this isn't an investment for everybody. It is advised for investors to understand both the lifestyle and the business of horses, especially if you are involved in any sort of direct ownership.
If you don't know how to clean the shoes or put the saddle on, probably shouldn't own one.
Yeah, you shouldn't own a horse.
Diversification, though, in this sector can mean owning land, horses, or even an event. So that's great. You got a few options there. Patience and passion are key drivers in the returns. You got to really like these guys. So if you're looking to expand your portfolio beyond those traditional markets, the equestrian world might be your next wild ride.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us. Stay tuned for more insight on our next episode.
And don't forget to subscribe to continue the Alternative Investments chat. See you next time.
Content provided in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be construed as professional, financial, or investment advice. This podcast should not be construed as an offer to sell or a solicitation of any offer to buy any securities. We strongly recommend that you seek advice from a qualified professional before making any financial decisions.